Hello everybody, hi, good evening. Oh look, you can see my light up there. I'm going to fix that, hang on 1 second. There, is that a bit better? Hope you're all doing well tonight, or this afternoon. It's still afternoon, I think. No, it's not, it's 7 o'clock at night. Yeah, hope you're all doing really well. I've been looking forward to this one. After the lavender, I think you'll find that this is a lot easier, hopefully. It's not quite as fiddly, all the little petals that you need to cut out for this one. So we're just going to hang on until we've got a few more people. So I keep fiddling around with I've got my iPad down here so that I can see your comments, and I keep fiddling around with it and changing the view so the comments disappear. So just bear with me. Okay, I can see that we've got Daisy with us. Hi, Daisy. Hi, Kath. We've got Elizabeth, we've got Liz. Hi, Heather. Heather, top of the class, Heather. Hi, Isabel. Hi, Gina. Hi, Rebecca. So, yeah, guys, I can only see I can see your names on the iPad down here, but I can only see your names right in front of me if you allow StreamYard to add your name. But it's fine if you don't want to. It's absolutely up to you. So, great. Okay, let's just do this. Okay, just bear with me. Okay, so what we're going to do as people join, I'm just going to go through all the bits and pieces that you need tonight, but I'll stay in this view just now as people are still joining us. So you should have your template, although you won't actually need it for the workshops. So you've got all of these pieces hopefully cut out already. I didn't remind you this week actually to do your homework, but hopefully you've got these bits cut out and ready. I know that some of you have, because I've seen the piles of felt. It's great. You will need your wire stems. Hi, Kathy. Hi, all the way from Northern Ireland. And yes, the birds are sounding lovely. I've got the window wide open here because it's so warm outside. So yeah, you'll hear lots of bird song tonight. Yeah, the floristry stems. Now these are the thicker ones. So these are 18 gauge. Remember, the smaller the number, the thicker and the stronger the wire. So these are the 18 gauge ones. And I've not cut them up yet because I wanted to show you my pliers. So we've got these. You will need, you might not need these bigger scissors if you've already cut up all of your bits of felt, but a pair of big scissors and a pair of small scissors, any little small scissors with nice sharp blades. So keep your nice sort of embroidery scissors for this kind of thing, because these are really, really good and sharp. You might need a pair of old scissors. If you haven't cut your stems up, you might want to use a pair of old scissors, but they are really tough. So if you have got wire cutters, they're definitely the best thing to do to cut the stems up. Best thing to use. Seem to have a choice of 2 pairs of small scissors. I don't know why. I love these ones. It's an appropriate colour for tonight. You'll also need, well, you need some pliers. Okay, so your pliers, these sort of flat nose ones are really good for gripping the wire. Round nose ones are good. The smaller the better, really, because the wires, you want to be able to get into a nice tight space with these. So if you've got a pair of small pliers, they're really useful to have for this. If you don't have these, I have tried with a pair of scissors. I'll show you the result. Can you see that? It was quite tricky with the scissors, but it's possible. But you'll find with the pliers, we're going to make much more of a coil on the end. So pliers are best if you've got them. You need your glue gun. So if you haven't switched your glue guns on, you do it now. Okay, I've got, I hope it's hot. I hope it's It's always a good idea to test things out before actually going ahead and doing a workshop. I've got a brand new glue gun and I'm just testing to make sure it is working. And it is. So that's fine. Somebody was asking in the Facebook group, I think it was Kathy actually, was asking, should there be smoke coming out of my glue gun? And glue guns get quite hot, actually. So what you would expect to see is a little kind of almost imperceptible little curl of smoke coming out of the end of it. But if it's any more than that, then there's probably something wrong with it. But a little tiny bit of smoke, you could expect that from a glue gun, so don't worry about it. And yeah, I'll talk about glue guns later if you like. What else do we need? Your felt cut into pieces, but I'll show you that when we go to the overhead view. And of course, this is what we're going to be making tonight. So these are violas. They're not pansies, but of course they are the pansy family. They've got 5 petals, 2 larger ones at the top and 3 smaller ones at the bottom. And they're really sweet, and they are kind of this size actually, so they're just really little. And a couple of people actually on the team were saying, well, you could make it into like a corsage or a brooch. It's about the right size. It'd be really quite sweet to do that. So let's get started. Oh, the other thing that you'll need actually is your pastels, if you have them. I think we're doing a roaring trade in the inscribed pastels, aren't we? So your pastels or felt tip pens, coloured chalk, crayons. Crayons are quite good, you know, the waxy crayons are quite good. Coloured pencils, they're fine as well, although they tend to drag the felt a little bit and make it a little bit fluffy. I really love the pastels. We've had other suggestions for things that you can use, including the kind of, I don't know what it's called, but you know, the stuff that you put on your hair to colour it. Never done it, but you know that stuff. Is it called hair chalk? Somebody will correct me. Eyeshadow. So get all different colours of eyeshadow. I guess that would be really good to use as well. Oh, the other thing, your floristry tape, of course, for covering the stems. Okay, so let's go to, there we go. I move that out of the way. So let's see, move all my bits so you can see a little bit of preparation that I've already done, although I'm not anticipating making this many violas in the workshop. We might make a couple. We'll just see how it goes for time. In your felt packs, if you got a felt pack, you would have got a few different colours of purple and lilac in there, and that was really just because, well, violas come in all different colours, so we thought it would be nice to give you a selection that you could choose from. And this sort of dark purple, I think, is the colour that you would most commonly see. It's a colour that you often see in pansies as well, so that's the colour that I have used for these ones. But I think I might go with a different colour tonight. Anyway, I'll decide. So I've got some little squares of the petals, and this is natural, this kind of creamy coloured one. And then we've got the smaller squares of green, which are for the sepals, which are the little leaf type structure. Here, I'll show you. So on the back of the viola, you get this little kind of star shape. And I can hear you going, oh no, I've got to cut more stars. Yes, you do. And it's a little bit different this week because these have just got 5 points instead of 6. So these are a little bit more unusual. So this is, the whole thing together is called a calyx, and each one of the points is a sepal. And what these do, what this does, is it protects the plant when it's still in bud, and then when the plant opens up and flowers, you get this sitting at the back of it. So that's what these small green squares are for. And of course, the larger green rectangles, they are for the leaves. So if we've got everything, let's get started. So we're going to start, if you haven't already done so, we're going to start by cutting up the stems. Now, they're thick and they're strong, as you will have discovered. So I'm using these pliers. So these are, I've had these for years. Linda, if you're watching, I think you are, you'll recognise these pliers from the bead shop days. Knew there was a reason for hanging on to some pairs of pliers. And these are really, really tough. So I'm not measuring, I'm just going to just kind of judge roughly halfway and just snip through. There we go. Oh, look, terrible, terrible judge of lengths there. So I've got two complete, doesn't matter, completely different lengths. And let's do another two. So it would help if I put my glasses on, of course, for this, but there we go. There we are, it's a bit better. Right, four pieces of wire already cut. And what we're going to do is we're going to start off by making a little coil at the very end of the wire. And the coil is so that you've got something to glue the petals onto. Otherwise, you'd be trying to glue them onto the very end of the wire and they just wouldn't sit properly. So you make this coil which creates a nice flat surface. And I'm just going to move all of these bits and pieces out of the way so that you can see a bit of a better sort of clearer surface. So to make your coils in the end, you just want to grab the very tip. I'm going to put my glasses on. There we go. Grab the very tip of the wire with the tip of the pliers and bend it away from you. Round into a little shape like that. And then what you want to do, and it is quite tough, but what you want to do is just grab that little loop that you've made in the end of the wire with your pliers and hold it really tight and then bend the wire around so that you are making a little curled up shape. Now this shape that you're making is not going to be seen, so it doesn't matter what it looks like as long as you've got a little bit of a kind of a flat surface to stick the petals onto. So if it looks like a little triangle, it doesn't matter. If some of the green colour starts chipping off the wire, doesn't matter because it's all going to be covered up. So I know that's a bit tricky, and it's especially tricky because the wire is quite hard. And you won't be able to get that nice coil if you're using scissors, but hopefully you'll be able to kind of make some kind of little triangle or some kind of shape at the end with the wire. So we'll do that again. So that's one. So we'll select a bit of a longer one. There you go. So again, with the tip of the pliers into the very end, bend away from you to make a little loop shape, and then holding that loop really tight, bend the wire away, and then just keep moving and bending and moving round and bending the wire away. Just enough to create that little coil in the end. And I guess that it's not quite a centimetre. That it's just about, I don't know, about 3/4 of a centimetre in the end. The size of it doesn't really matter. So for anybody that missed that, let's do it one more time. Take this little one. So the tip of the pliers in the end of the wire, bend away to make little loop there. Doesn't matter that the loop's not closed up either. And then just gripping that nice and tight, bend the wire away from you and just keep moving it round and bending the wire away. There we go. It wouldn't be right, would it, to have a completely straightforward flower making workshop without something that's a little bit tricky. We're making up for the ease of petal cutting with the twisting of the wire. So there you go. Oh, that one's tiny. Right. Now we will bend these. So you see, if we have a look at the violas and how they sit, they're sitting so that the flowers are looking straight at you. They're not sort of looking up the way. And that's because if you turn over and have a look at the back, I've bent that at a sort of a right angle at the top so that they face the front, as it were. But we can always make those adjustments afterwards once we've actually stuck everything on, made all the petals and stuck them on. So the next step is to cover the remaining stem. So you're not going to try and cover the coil at the top, but you're going to cover the remaining stem with your floristry tape. So your floristry tape is the stretchy paper and it's waxed. So when you handle it, the wax kind of heats up and makes it a little bit softer and makes it a little bit stickier, and it makes it easier to handle. But you'll find if your floristry tape has been sitting out and you haven't used it for a few days, that the end kind of bit might feel a little bit dry and just not very sticky. So what I normally do is I just kind of take a little bit off and I just tear that off and I just pop that in the bin, so that I'm starting from a piece that just feels like it's a little bit stickier. But as you use it and it warms up in your hands, it will become a little bit more sticky and a little bit sort of easier to wrap around. So what you're going to do is you're going to cover the whole stem apart from the coiled bit at the top. So you just want to start. Now, if you want to, you can. If you find it makes it easier, you can put a tiny little bit of glue on the end, but you really don't need very much glue, just to kind of get it started. And then once you've got that first bit kind of stuck down, the rest of it's easy. It's just getting that first little bit stuck to the wire, because it tends to kind of slide around on the wire a little bit. Once you've got that first bit, it's fine. So just unroll a little bit. So you want to cover the stem by coming down at a bit of an angle. So there's a couple of different ways of doing it. I tend to just hold on to the tape and twist the stem away from me. So I'm kind of twisting it at sort of clockwise direction, all the way down. If you kind of give it a little pat down with your fingers as you're going, and that'll help it stick as well, because it just helps to soften it all up. There we go, all the way down, and just tear the bottom of it off, and then just push that into place. And you shouldn't need to add any more glue to the end there. It should just stick to itself. So there's one. And we'll do another one. So again, I'm just going to add just a little touch of glue. Can you hear the birds? We've got a couple of pigeons that come into the garden and loads of blackbirds just now. So again, a little bit of glue up at the top. And then twisting this away from me and just squeezing it in with my fingers as I'm coming down, and that helps to soften the wax and make it all nice and sticky. There we go. And when we get to the bottom, just tear that off. That's a bit untidy, doesn't matter. Just get rid of that long bit there. And just fold all of that in, wrap it all in. Quite a good idea, although I don't have this on my knee or anywhere next to me, and I say every week that I should do this, just to have like a wipe or a cloth to wipe your fingers on, just kind of in between gluing and what have you. Must remember for next week. Make a note. Okay. There's two. Let's go with two. See how we get on. Right. next thing we're going to do is we're going to make the calyx, which is the starry bit on the back of the flowers. So we're going to make, well, I'm going to make two violas, so I'm going to make two of these, but I'll demonstrate a few times so that you know exactly what to do. So you want your little squares of green, and you want a pair of sharp scissors, and you're going to start by turning the square into a circle just by cutting off the corners. So just going in, so I'm putting my blades of my scissors in about halfway up one side, and I'm just turning the felt rather than the scissors to cut the first corner, and again turn the felt rather than the scissors, and then the last corner. So you should end up with something that looks more or less like a circle. It doesn't, it's not too crucial, but you don't need to worry too much unless it's really like an oval shape, and then you would want to tidy it up. As long as it's more or less a circle, that'll be fine. So do one more. So just holding it, scissors in about halfway up one side, and then snipping off all four corners. There we go. Do one more. And it does really help if you start off with squares. So if you start off with something that's a bit of a rectangular shape, then it'll be a lot more tricky to turn it into a circle. So make sure that you've got squares to start with. It does help. So there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So what we want to do is to create a 5-pointed star from these circles, which is a little bit trickier than creating a star with an even number of points, because if you've got an even number of points, you can take your circle and you can fold it in half, and you can snip into each side, and it's just easier. Okay, but this time, because we want an odd number of points, we need to create them with the circle flat like this. So you're going to have to use your judgment, your just by eye, to see how evenly spaced you can get your little snips. So this is going to be, first challenge was creating the coils in the end of the wire. The second challenge is going to be creating the little snips in your circles. So here we go. So I'm going to go in about 5 millimeters, and I had actually marked on the blades of my scissors, but the little marks have come off. But the marks on the scissors were to make sure that I went in at the same place each time. I'm just looking to see if I've got a Sharpie actually. And I don't think I do. Anyway, let's just see. So I'm going to go in from the bottom about 5 millimeters. So there's one. And I'm going to then flip this over, and I'm going to do one on either side. So it's a little bit like the trident symbol. So you've got 1, 2, 3. You see that? And then in the spaces that remain, you want one roughly halfway. I say roughly, exactly would be good, but more or less halfway between each of those spaces. So you end up with 5 snips, and I appreciate that that's not that easy to see. So I think that, look, if I show you on a piece of paper what you're aiming for. Here's your circle. Start off with one here, and then turn it round and make one here and one here, and then in the remaining spaces, one here and one here. And that's not very evenly spaced, as you can see. but I'm sure you'll do loads better than me. But you get the idea. 5 evenly spaced. So let's do another one. It's a bit of a wonky circle. Let's see how we get on with this. So 1 straight in front of me, turn it over, and then 1 to either side, and then fill the gaps between the gaps on each side, halfway, 1, and then another one in that space there. And I've got another one cut, so let's just do this one as well. So 1 right in front of me, turn it over, make your little trident symbol. And then 1 halfway there, and another halfway there. There we go. So the next step, once you've got these little bits snipped out, is to cut a little notch, a little triangle out of each one. So doesn't matter which one you start with, because in theory they're all the same going all the way around. So I'm just going to hold a circle, and I'm going to put my scissors straight in to meet one of the cuts, and it just cuts its little triangle. And then I'm going to move this round anti-clockwise and do the next one. So the scissors are going straight ahead and they're cutting that little triangle out. So turn it round, and then they're going in straight ahead. And this is where you find out how evenly spaced your notches are. And the last one straight in. So you end up with something like this, a little bit of a kind of windmill going on. And then flip it over and do the same again, but this time you are cutting on the other side. So from the bottom up to the corner, and that creates your points. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and the last one, 5. So hopefully you end up with something that looks a bit like this, but if it's not completely even, it really doesn't matter, and it's really better if it's not, because nature and all that. What you want to do once you've got your star, it needs to have a hole in it so that you can feed the stem through. And bear in mind that your stem has got floristry tape on it, so it's a bit thicker than just a piece of wire. So just make sure that you are careful. You don't want to go in and make a huge hole and then end up snipping the star in half, which might happen. But just take your scissors and snip with the points of the scissors. So if you open it up, you'll see there's a big enough hole there that you can feed the stem through. So we'll just continue with these other 2 pieces of felt to make the stars. So remember, the blades of the scissors are going straight ahead, and they're just snipping in. I'm just going to cut that little fluffy bit out there. So they're going straight up to meet the other cut. It's the last one. And then when you've got your 5, flip it over and go again, cutting on the other side. This is not going to be very even, this star, I can tell already. Look at that. And then the 5th one, and then to get the hole in the middle, fold it in half, and then with the points of the scissors, snip a hole. There we go. And then let's do this last one. So of course you can do this with any number of points, and it's just, have a look at a flower. if you're thinking about making a flower from felt, they're mostly easy. Some of them are easier than others, as you have discovered. But it's good to start looking at how, the anatomy of a flower and which bits you could easily make from felt and put together, because you've discovered it's really not that difficult. So you can make these sepals with any number of stars. It just depends how many snips you make around the circle. So there's that one, and then we just fold it over and snip it with the points of the scissors to make that hole in it. Okay. I haven't made a hole in that one, so let me just do that. So just fold over and snip. Okay, once you've got your little stars, you can just pop them to one side. And the next step is to make the purple petals. So on your template, you'll have seen that the petal shapes, so here's our template sheet. The petal shapes, I just said make them all the same size when you're cutting the squares of felt out, just to make them all the same size. So the white ones and the purple ones were all like 2 by 2. However, when you have a look at the violas, you can see that the 2 purple petals at the top and this white one at the bottom are all about the same size, but these 2 little ones either side are quite a bit smaller. And the reason why I didn't say to cut little pieces like that is just because the squares of felt would have been so tiny, it would have just been a little bit fiddly, and it's easier just to cut a smaller petal out of the same size of felt. So that's why everything is the same size. But when we come to cut them, we just cut them a bit smaller. I hope that makes sense. So let's do the purple ones. I'm going to choose, I'm going to go with this kind of raspberry colour, and I think it is called raspberry actually. So I'm going to need 2 pieces of raspberry, and I'm going to make enough for 2 flowers. So I'm going to need 4 pieces of raspberry, 2 for each viola, and 3 pieces of the natural. Get my felt pieces. There we go. So let's start by making the purple petals. So we do this by taking your square, folding it in half, and because it's a square, it doesn't matter which way you fold it, so fold it in half. And then what you're aiming to do is to create a petal that's got a little bit of a stalk to it. I don't think petals have got stalks, but it's got a little bit of a thing at the bottom so that you can actually glue it onto the coil. So we're going to start by putting the scissors in. They're quite close to the fold, so they're just about 2 millimeters away from the fold. Excuse the state of my nails. I'm having a manicure tomorrow, so I should really have taken that polish off. I do apologise. So I'm going to go in quite close to the fold, and I'm right up at the top of the blades, not that end. What's it called? Is that the? Somebody will help me out. I don't know what it's called. The join in a pair of scissors. It's not the hilt because that's a sword, but that bit I'm going to go right in up there, and then snip for about 1 centimetre, and then come right out to the sides and up and right across the base. Is it, Heather? The base of the scissors. Okay, I'll go with base. Thank you. Maybe. We'll go with base. Cut right across the top. So when you open out your petal, you've got that kind of shape. So it's got a little bit of stalk at the bottom, which is going to help you to glue it on, and it's got this rounded shape at the top. Now, ideally, what you want is you don't want to end up with a sort of heart shape at the top. So I'll show you what happens. Let's get another colour. I'll show you what happens, how you might end up with a heart shape. It's fine, it's absolutely fixable, but viola petals are really quite rounded at the top. So if you went in at the bottom and up about 1 centimetre and then right round to the edge and round, and then you're coming across the top and you're dipping down a little bit. When you open it out, you have that kind of shape, which is lovely, but it's not really a viola petal shape. So when you're coming round the top, don't dip down, just go straight across the top. So if I do another one in the right colour, go in at the base of the scissors, quite close to the fold, round to the outside, up, and go just kind of straight across the top, or even angle it up a little bit. So when you open it up, if it's got a little bit of a point on it like that has, you can always just take your scissors across the top of it and you can just neaten up any little pointy corners. So there's 2 for that one, and we need 2 more for the other. So right in, it's a little bit fiddly because the felt squares are quite small, aren't they? Out to the edge and then round the top. It's always better, if you can, to do it in one cut rather than lots of little snips, if you can manage. And that's when having really good sharp scissors will really help you. And then the last one. In quite near the base and about 2 millimeters from the fold, and then out to the edge and round and across the top. There we go. Oh, hot air balloons. Yes, they do look exactly like hot air balloons. Yeah, that's a very good comparison. So that's what you're aiming for, tiny little hot air balloon shapes. So you want your 2 purple ones, and then do exactly the same with the natural colour. So we want 1 for each flower that's about the same size as the large purple ones. So we'll just snip round and across. And another one, I'm going to tell you something about these little, the white ones in a second. So again, out to the edge. The birds are so happy. There we go. So with the white ones, or the natural coloured ones, if you have a look at the violas, you can see that actually where the purple ones have got this kind of stalk, the natural ones come to a bit more of a point. So what to do, once you've cut your shape, you can just trim it to create a point at the bottom. So you can just snip those edges off. The other way to do it, and we'll just do that with the smaller ones, just so you can see 2 different ways of doing it, is just to start by cutting it right in at the fold when you begin. So that's your 2 large purples and your 1 large natural, and then you need 2 little natural petals for each flower. So again, take your piece of felt, and this time we're going to start right in at the corner. So start right in at the corner and just come round to the edge. And we want these to be quite a bit smaller, so I'm just going to curve it round and open it up. And you can compare, and if you feel it's still a little bit big, you can just trim it down. So that's the big one, and that's the smaller one, and it doesn't look that different. So once you've got the shape, you can just take your scissors and just cut it down until you're happy with it. Sometimes it's easier to do that than it is to just go for it and cut it really small to start with and then think it's a bit too small. That's better. So let's go again, see if I can make this a little bit smaller to start with. So just fold up your felt, come right in from the corner. And this time I'm just going to come round, and you can see where I'm stopping on there. It's just about 3/4 of the way up this time. It's a little bit wide. So just trim it down. Make that a wee bit more pointy at the bottom. So yeah, you need 2 of these for each flower. Then we'll do the leaves, that'll be fun. And then the last petal. There we go. And it's a little bit flat along the bottom, so I'm just going to trim it to make it a little bit more pointy. There we go. That's all my petals cut for those 2 flowers. So hope you're all getting on okay. We're not managing to keep up. Let's have a little look. Just having a little scroll through. So let's talk about the colour on the petals, and that I think adding the colour is what really makes these look so realistic and really brings them to life. And the violas that I've seen have mostly got this gorgeous yellow sort of tinge in the middle of the creamy petals, and then a little bit of the colour of the outside petals just on the very edges of the natural petals. So we will add the colour in a minute, but I'm just going to have a little look. And if you guys have got this gorgeous set of pastels as well, then you can have a little break and have a look at all your pretty colours and see which ones you'd like to use. So I think, judging by this, the way it's been worn down, I think that might have been the yellow that I used there. But you can always just test them out. So that's quite an orangey yellow. I think that was the one I used. You can see it's quite a good colour. So I'm going to take that one, and I want a colour now to match this, and I'm thinking, oh, that looks nice, doesn't it? That one there, let's try it. That's perfect. So the pastels, for anybody who's having a look at these and they haven't seen these before, they're available on Amazon. I think they're also available in a couple of other places. I think somebody managed to get some on eBay. I think they're maybe about £12. It's a total investment. Honestly, they will last for years. I think it was Teresa said that she used these at art college and she's only just finished them. So they do. I was going to say they do last a really long time, but that would be a bit insulting. Teresa, I'm sure that was only a couple of years ago. Anyway, they're really good value. They're quite short sticks, but you don't need much when you're making these flowers. So they will last you absolutely ages. And look at all the colours you get. So it's brilliant to be able to just go in there and just choose exactly the right colour to go with your project. So those are the 2 I'm going to use. So Melanie is asking if they are chalk or oil pastels, and honestly, I'm not sure, and I think Teresa might know the answer to that. And the thing is, there's absolutely no information on the box. It just says high-grade colours. I mean, they're lovely, strong pigments, but it doesn't actually say whether they're oil or I think they're chalk. I think they're chalk pastels, but possibly Teresa can help with that question. Right. Now we've got our petals. Oh, they're chalk. Thank you very much. Chalk pastels, which, yeah, means that they do kind of, the colour does come off a little bit on your fingers. Another reason for having a cloth next to you when you're working. We're going to make the leaves next. So your leaves, you've got your larger rectangles of green, and your leaf shape, if we show you, is this kind of jaggy edged shape. And the best way to achieve this is to cut a basic leaf shape and then to cut into it to create the kind of jaggy edges. So with your leaf shape, you can either just go kind of freehand and cut a leaf shape out of this, or you can fold it in half. Folding it in half is a little bit trickier because it's quite long, but it obviously speeds up the process. So again, I'm going in at the base of the scissors at the bottom, out to the side, right up quite close to the edges, and then I'm taking the scissors right round to a point at the top and snipping. So we do want the leaves to have a point at the top. So there's one, and each viola has one leaf. So again, fold your rectangle of green in half, put your scissors in, and again, I'm coming in about 2 millimeters in from the folded edge, and you will need that because you're going to glue the petal around the stem. So in, and then right out to the side, up the edges, and then right round and up to a point at the top. So you've got your basic leaf shape. And then you want to turn your leaf shape into this kind of jaggy edged shape here. And that's when your little sharp scissors are going to come in really handy. So I'm just going to get my scissors in, and I'm going to move the leaf rather than the scissors. So I'm just cutting and turning the leaf as I go. So cutting up, turning the leaf, and a little snip back. So up and back down, and just keep flipping it round until you get up to the top. And of course, leave that end nice and pointy. And you can flip it over and do the other side. So cut up and in. You might want to take your scissors, you might want to do these as kind of separate cuts. You find it's too many cuts to keep going just with one sort of cut of the scissors. You'll need to sort of open and close the blades for this all the way up to the top. So there's one, and then another one. Oh, that's a good idea. I wrap mine in a wee tissue now. Actually, when I'm looking at that, oh, Liz says that is a very good idea. Stop you getting the colour on your hands. So many useful hints and tips. So again, cutting up and then turning the felt rather than the scissors. All the way up to the top, and leave it nice and pointed. And then the other side. The garden sounds like an aviary tonight. It's so nice. All the way up. And a little point at the top. And if it's uneven, so much the better, because it's just going to look so much more natural if it's not completely even, which is better than really, you know, you could fold it in half and do both sides at once, but then you would end up with two completely identical sides. And I just think it looks a little bit better if it's not completely even. And you do want this little kind of stem, if you like, at the bottom, because you're going to end up wrapping that around the stem of the flower. So there's your leaves. And our next step, I always love this bit, is colouring, putting a little bit of colour onto the natural petals. So we'll just have a look at these. The white ones, the natural ones, have got a little bit of yellow and they've got a tiny touch of the colour just at the point, and then they've got some of the large petal colour just at the edge there as well. And it's a good idea to do this on a piece of paper. So whether you're using your pastels or chalk, eyeshadow, pens, whichever method you're using, it's just the same technique. The only thing that's a little bit different, if you were using coloured pencils, you'd have to rub a little bit harder, and it does make the felt a little bit fluffy. But if it goes fluffy, you can always just trim the fluffy bits down. So we want a little bit of the yellowy colour just at the pointy ends. And I've got a bit of kitchen paper here that you can dab just to take the dust off it. So we'll just do that with all of these. Try and make the colour a little bit more intense right down at the tip. And if you're using pastels, you can actually use your finger if you want to just sort of blend it out. And it's another good reason for using the pastels, is because you can build the colour up and you can get this really nice kind of gradation of colour where it's more intense in places and then just a bit lighter. And the last one. Go. And then with your colour, so whatever colour you've chosen that kind of goes with the larger petals, you want a little, and it's like a little triangle, so it's this kind of shape in the middle of the petal. Just give it a little dab, and then just a little bit right down at the point. We'll just go through all of those. So it's a little kind of triangle up at the top and a touch of colour down at the point. This is such a fun bit. I just love this. It just reminds me of colouring in. And a little bit at the bottom. So I know that Linda's used, is it Posca pens, Linda? So I'm not sure. I've never used Posca pens, or I'm not even actually very sure what they are. It'd be quite interesting to see. I know that Linda used Posca pens with the cherry blossom. The result looked really good. So Linda, if you're using those tonight, we'll all be watching with interest to see the result and to see what colours you can get them in and so on, and where you got them actually as well. Okay, there's my petals. And the next thing we're going to do, so if you have a look at viola petals or pansy petals, they're kind of, they're a little bit crinkly. So what we do is we wring these out. So you just really want to just kind of fold it up, and I fold it with the colour on the inside so it doesn't get onto my hands. Just fold it and just give it a really tight twist, and then just pop it down to one side, and do the same with the larger purple petals as well. So just give all of your petals a little twist just to give them a bit of texture. And the reason why I don't unfold them once I've twisted them is because they will just unfold by themselves and they don't really need any help to do that. And this is the last of the natural ones. And then the two larger purple ones, it's a little bit easier to twist these up because they're bigger. So I just twist them up and give it a little bit of a roll. Go. And 1, 2, 3. I'm missing a petal. I need to cut another one. So twist that one up. Or did I maybe cut one to show you how it would look if it turned into a heart shape. So let's just cut another petal up. So it's the larger purple ones that need the bit of a stem at the bottom, all the way around the top. There we are. Okay. And now we're ready for gluing. All right. Get to use my new glue gun. Right. So what we want to do is we want to start with, there's a particular order that you want to glue the petals on. So you can have a look on the finished ones here. We've got the two purple ones go on at the back, and then the two small natural ones, one either side, and then the larger natural one is the last one to go on, and that goes on the front at the bottom. So start with the two larger ones, and we're just literally going to glue them straight onto the coil that you made in the end of the wire. So I'm going to just turn it over and put a little bit of glue on the back there, and pop the petal on at a slight angle. So it's not going straight up, it's slightly angled. So there's the first one. And then the second one is going to go on next to it. And that's going to go on at a slight angle. So it's overlapping, it's slightly angled in the other direction. So there's your two petals that go on at the back. And then you want your two little ones either side. So one on that side and another little one on this side. And the glue strings are unavoidable. You can always just pick them off afterwards. There's Jessie. And then the final petal, so that's the large natural one, goes at the bottom. So glue on there. And that goes over the whole lot and just sits at the bottom there. Just that glue string. There we are. And once you have, so there you go, you can see the front of the viola, and then that's what the back looks like. So once you have all your petals on, the next thing to do is to put the calyx on, to put the little star of the sepals on. So just thread that your stem through the hole that you made and move this all the way up to the top, like that. And then you'll want to just put a little bit of glue behind it, so you can put a little bit of glue onto that coil at the back and just pop it down. You can glue the individual little points down if you want to, or you can just glue the middle of it down and just leave the points loose. And then once that's in place, you can, if you want to, you can do this now, or you can wait until you've put the leaf on, but I'm just going to show you. Take your pliers and you just want to bend a little bit so that it's not, your stem is not completely straight up and down. It's just nice. It's a little bit of a bend in it at the top there. And then the last thing to do is to add your leaf on. So the leaf, you want to add a bit of glue to the base here. And just position your leaf. You can put it on wherever you like. Just position it and fold it round. Now, once the glue is dried and your leaf is firmly attached, you can take your scissors and you can just trim that down. So come all glue strings, look at that. You take your sharp scissors and you can just trim away some of this extra felt just to neaten it up a little bit. So I'll put together the second viola, because I've got all the pieces cut ready, and then I will need to unfurl this one. So with the glue strings, if you're really plagued by them, one tip is to, when you're gluing, move the glue gun away quickly. And it'll create less of a, well, you might still get the little bit glue string, but it'll be much thinner. It's much easier to remove because the glue, it starts to harden. I've just glued that to the paper. It starts to harden really, really quickly. So there's our two petals at the back, and then I want the two little ones to the sides. So one and the other one. This one's quite a bit smaller. That's a train going past, by the way. All happens in East Linton. And then the large petal at the bottom. It's a very long train by the sounds of it. So there's our flower. And then the calyx. Just pop the stem through. All the way up to the top. And a bit of glue behind it. So I'm just putting a little bit of glue on the coil there. And then just pop that down. And I just leave the little stars unglued. I like them just to be kind of looser. And then the leaf. A little bit of glue on there. If you've got, you can use, the hot glue gun is absolutely fine for this, but if you'll notice in the online shop that we're selling, it's called fast and tacky glue as well, which is a glue that dries clear, which is really good if you're doing something and you don't want the bulk of the glue. You know, when you use hot glue, you get a bit of bulk going on as the glue dries. So if you want to do something but you don't want the bulk, then the fast and tacky glue is really good for that. So you could use it, for example, for putting the leaves on or for putting the petals on. The only drawback, of course, is that you need to wait for it to dry. And when you're making flowers and things, you just want everything to be done, you know, as quickly as possible. So I'm just holding that leaf in place until it's dry. And then I'm just going to go in with my scissors and just tidy it up a little bit, just cut away some of the extra felt and the dried glue we go. There we are. So, how have you all got on? Let's have a look. Yay. Right, so here are the two that I made. Complete with glue strings, which I'll sort out. They're quite a sweet colour, so you'll have that colour in your packs. I think it's called, I'll double check, but I'm pretty sure this colour is called raspberry. So if you're looking to buy this in bigger pieces, it's called raspberry. That's the original little bunch there, so you can see the difference in the colours there. Sue's asking, can you show us the bit with the pliers on the stem at the end, please? So I think you're meaning the coiling the wire at the end. So I can, yeah, absolutely, I can show you that again. So let's just move to that view. So Sue, I think you're meaning, so I'm just trying to get the camera to focus. It's difficult when it's just a little thing like this. I think you're meaning, how do you create this coil at the end here? So you do need, you might have just missed this bit at the beginning, so you do need a pair of pliers for this. You can use a pair of old scissors, but it's not as easy. So if you've got a pair of pliers, a small pair is good, but if they're bigger, chunkier pliers, that's fine as well, just as long as they're nice and strong for holding the wire. So you just take your wire, and these are the full stems, but I've cut them in half. You get 2 violas from one stem. Oh, no, what you did after the petals went on. Oh, well, I'll just remind you of this bit just as I'm here. Okay, so holding the stem at the end, bending it away, and then grasping it firmly, and then pushing the wire away with you to make the coil. So, Sue, no, what you did after the petals went on. All I did, so I'll just show you on this one. So you can see that this is all on one plane, and all I did was bend the flower away, so that what you end up with is, get that in the right place, is a little viola flower that's looking at you rather than looking straight up. So next time you have a look at a pansy, you'll see that the flowers are looking straight at you because the stem, the stalk, has a little bend in it at the top, and you just create that by just bending this over, bending your wire over at the top. You can bend it right over towards you, and you can either do that before you put the petals on, or you can put the petals on and then bend the whole thing on. But it's easier for you to see how that is now without the petals on. So it's just the coil, and then it's bent towards you, and then you're putting your petals on here so they're looking right at you. Okay, somebody says, I'm struggling with the calyx, can do the 5 cuts but not sure where the next cuts go. So let's do another one of those. So here's your square and your circle. We just cut the circle out of that. So we just cut the circle by cutting the corners. So you've got something that's more or less a circle, doesn't matter if it's not exact. And if I find the little diagram, I think it's here. This is what you're aiming to cut. You're aiming to cut 5 little snips. This is not very evenly spaced, but you want to try and get them as evenly spaced as you can. So start off with one, move all of that so you can see. Start off with one right in the middle, there. And then flip the circle over and do one to either side. So you have one at the top and one either side. It's a little bit tricky for you to see that because it's not completely cut yet. And then roughly halfway between each one on the spaces that are left, so that you end up with 5. Okay, so you've got your 5 snips, and then the next cuts, you're going to cut. The scissors are going straight forward, so the scissors are perpendicular to you, and your cuts that you've already made are at an angle, so you're going to cut straight in right ahead of you to cut a triangle out of the felt, and then turn it round and do the next one, so it's straight in, cut out a triangle, and just keep going round. There's 3, and the 4th one, if your snips aren't quite even, you might need to go in and just cut on the other side. And then the last one, straight ahead of you, and cut that triangle out. So that's the first round of snips, and that creates that kind of windmill effect. And then flip it over towards you, and then cut again, but cut on the other side. So you're cutting from the point right round. So you're cutting from the point up the right hand side, and that creates the star. So 3, 4, 5. And that's a very wonky looking 5-pointed star, but it doesn't really matter at all if it's wonky, because when it's on the bottom of your flower, you won't see it. And remember to fold it in half and use the tips of the scissors just to cut your little hole in the middle, so that you can then slip that over the stem. Okay, so I hope that was helpful. How have you put your posy together, asks Kim. All I did was took a piece of 22 gauge floristry stem wire, you see it there, and I just wrapped it round. So I literally just took the thin wire, the thin floristry stem, and wrapped it round, but it would look really nice with a little piece of ribbon, a little piece of jute twine would look really sweet as well. You could use anything like that. Yeah, it's just literally a little piece of the floristry stem. So any other questions? Everybody okay? And hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you have a lovely weekend. Have a lovely evening tonight. And oh, raffia, yes, indeed, raffia would look lovely as well. Looking forward to seeing your finished violas in the Facebook group as usual. And if there's any questions, just fire away in the Facebook group, because we're always there to help out. Okay, see you soon, guys. Bye.